Not
Okay, folks,
super late tomorrow.
if you would join me in the
Wednesday
flag
morning.
salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome and thank you very much. We have some consent agenda items. The approval of regular meeting minutes October 1st, special meeting October 10th, and special meeting minutes of October 3rd. 23rd. Thank you.
I might need a minute to
Okay.
browse those.
And when you get done, I would like to hear a motion.
Are they all in one document?
Pardon? It's on an extra.
I sent you, I sent them on Saturday. I didn't realize I hadn't
It's
sent
a
them with
separate
your stuff
one.
on Friday.
Come on.
Did you find it?
That is today. Saturday. Okay, I got them.
You keep in contact with anybody from DNR anymore?
Yeah, there's a few.
We have a new director, Eric. Not director, I'm sorry. Volunteer for South Puget Sound.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, especially the head of law enforcement, who I stay in touch with.
Great. Did you find them?
I did, and I read them.
Goody. Any changes?
No, I would move to accept consent agenda items A, B, and C.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. Action items, general fund vouchers, $21,516.35. Payroll vouchers, $16,991.37. Water fund vouchers, $73.62. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the action items A, B, and C.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Commissioner reports. Who first? Ted?
Besides the special meeting, I attended the conference in Leavenworth and had a great time over there. But that's been about it. I did talk to the sheriff Saturday, and hopefully after the election, we'll get things moving. So.
Good. Great. Good.
Report meetings, I did have to miss the EDC once again. My plan is to make as many of those as humanly possible, which is not always possible. Did go to I worked with Larry on his contract and the pay adjustment and his new pay scale, which we adopted. And went to the conference. The conference has great information, a great venue. Thank the public and the taxpayers for letting me attend those conferences. I believe they're very beneficial to the port and myself.
Good. I did not make those. I had a wedding to go to. Granddaughter got married.
Awesome.
Of course, I did the regular port meetings, Oyster House meeting for the October 9th. We did a meeting and updates, and we had a couple of new volunteers show up. October 15th, Oyster House meeting, met with Mike Ross and the engineer Terry Nettles to view the Oyster House and go over the location of the final placement of the Oyster House Museum. And then North Mason Community Voice was October 22nd, and it was about our local water districts. Thank you, Lenny, for putting that, emceeing it, and Larry spoke, which all went really well. There was Larry, which represented the Port of Allyn, and then also the Belfair Water, and then West Sound Water and Sewer, and also Trails End was represented there. November 1st, went to the Department of Natural Resource Group, focus group, and they're looking for letters of support for the local DNR grant that keeps our trails maintained and our employees to do all that. And 2 items, just so that you know, these are in Kitsap County. It's a Green Mountain Forest. They're going to add a trail and parking access to GM1, which is off of, that accesses the Green Mountain Vista. It's heavily used. And they're also going to do a grant for the enhancement of the Green Mountain Vista. I don't know if very many people go out there or know much about it, but it's a regular place. It's really awesome. If we can, as a port, would like to do a letter of support, I'm sure they would appreciate it. I do have more information for it if you guys want to talk about it. And also remind everybody about, we're having an Oyster House fundraiser on the 17th, which is a Saturday. There'll be food and intros of everybody, and we encourage you to come in. It will be here. Okay.
What day?
Yeah, it's from noon to 3.
Which day?
It is November 17th, Saturday. We would like you to be there.
I'd like to be there.
Oh. Huh? Okay, yes, that's right.
November 17th.
Yes.
I don't have that in my new calendar.
Well, hopefully you can make it. Okay. I don't see Travis, but we do have a security officer's report in our packet.
I can read that if you'd like.
Sure. Would you do that, Larry? Thank
Sure.
you.
Hold on, let me get it up. Okay, September 30th, 2200 hours, 22:24. Kayak Park bathroom facilities had the dressing room door kicked in and damaged to the point of requiring a replacement. Because of damage, this bathroom facility will be locked until it reopens in late spring. October 26th at 9:47, received a call from a representative of the Coast Guard about wanting vessel information for a boat that was believed to have gotten away from the Allyn waterfront facility. The vessel in question was actually not tied to our pier, but tied to a private buoy outside of our lease. I directed the Coast Guard representative to call the Port of Allyn office after 11 a.m., see if there was any information about the vessel. And the same day at 15:37, Mason County Sheriff made contact with us about the vessel that had gotten adrift. Contact was made with the owner of the boat and retrieval was in progress.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
there you
And
go.
while you're there, it's your
While
turn.
I'm here. Okay. Water system issues. I am very happy to report that after more than 2 years, we have finally received the approval letter for our water system from the state. This will make our plan valid for 10 years. The approval letter is in your meeting packet. There's nothing more to report on this other than I'm relieved to finally get this off my plate. However, there was a letter we received from the state prior to my involvement with this project that I just found out was never responded to concerning our water right. I have asked Northwest Water Systems to respond to the letter. The response basically says we're complying with all rules and regulations to maintain that water right. In fact, we've had no new connections or any other activity since the letter was issued. Makes this a minimal concern according to Northwest Water Systems. Yarac Community Utilities Proposal. We've received a proposal from Yarac Community Utilities to purchase water from our system. Since as a Class B water system, they're only allowed to draw 5,000 gallons a day from the same aquifer as we have our water right in. I sent the proposal to Joe Brogan to be vetted. Spoke with Joe this morning, and he said that he'll have a draft agreement to me by the end of the week. This is on tonight's agenda for discussion and possible action, which may require scheduling a second meeting this month once we have the draft in hand, if you all like to move forward. Budget process on tonight's agenda is the final copy of the 2019 budget for your review and approval. It's also a copy of my employment agreement. What I have done to avoid any future confusion like we've had over the past couple of years is provided each of you with a printed copy as well as one for myself, an office copy, and one to go in our safe deposit box. That is 6 copies total for us all to sign. That way each of you as well as myself have signed copies, as well as one for my employee file and a default copy in the safe deposit box. I'd also like to point out that our cash carryover from this year to next year is $122,962, or 22% of our total budget for 2018. That doesn't count the unbudgeted timber tax revenue we've received. Year to date, we've received more than $79,000 in timber tax revenue and only budgeted for $11,000, which creates an additional $68,000 plus surplus. Here's the copies of the employment agreement if you all want to sign them. I have signed mine. Bias in our 2019 budget. When we began entering into the 2019 budget into bias last week, we found what we believe are the rest of the anomalies in our bias programming. I anticipate we'll have them all corrected and reprogrammed the way we need to by the time the process is finished. The budget process has been a very good thing for us, and that it's helped us discover what and where exactly those anomalies were, so they can be corrected and help us be fully operational in bias. Creating and signing our own warrants. Last year, when the county changed its schedule for running warrants, this created problems for us in several areas and prompted us to look into what it was going to take for us to be able to do this ourselves. One of the big attractions was the ability to be able to pay our bills using ACH instead of mailing out warrants. The amount of additional work for this was offset by the time and labor costs of dealing with the problems created by the county's schedule change. However, now that the county has restored its original warrant processing schedule, it's eliminated the main reasons we wanted to make the change. While we won't be able to use ACH, it seems that perhaps we should just leave well enough alone, at least for now. It seems to be a case of if it's not broke, let's not fix it. Property purchase. As reported previously, state law requires that we pay fair market value, which would be determined by a licensed appraiser. We'd engaged a local residential appraiser, James Dunn, who is a Lakeland Village resident. After researching the property, he reported back to me that he is not licensed to appraise it because it is zoned village commercial, not residential, although it's assessed for tax purposes as residential. I called a couple of other appraisers, and they each told me the same thing when I told them about the zoning. It appears we need to hire a commercial appraiser, which will cost somewhere around $5,000. So I wanted to see what you all thought before making a commitment to spend that kind of money. I've included that amount plus another $3,500 for the appraisal review and the VFP grant that I will submit on Wednesday, but there's no guarantee we'll get the grant, which means we'll be out of pocket on the appraisal if we don't. I've spoken to the owner, and she understands that we would like to purchase the property, but it wasn't going to happen by her November 1st deadline. I explained about the grant funding we were seeking and told her if that didn't happen, we would be looking at other options. Dock issues. I previously reported we had a small electrical fire on the dock. While there wasn't any major damage, I believe the pump out vendor is responsible to replace the wiring. There's also other damage that took place during Allyn days that needs to be addressed as well. A piece of PVC conduit along the dock was smashed by a boat and now has exposed wires. Thankfully, it's all low voltage to operate the pump, but it's shut off until this is fixed. Unfortunately, the cost of that repair will fall on us since it isn't a failure of their system, but damage done by a boater. I've insisted the vendor get a permit for the repairs, which they are reluctant to do because the entire installation will have to be brought up to current code. I'm also insisting they put a junction box at the top of the dock itself with a disconnect switch. Right now, the only disconnect is on the shore. When I told him that, he started to say none of this was their responsibility. They didn't do the initial low voltage installation. We had it done. We've done some research on this and found an invoice from 2012 for the cost of the system, but there's no detail or documentation at all about the installation we can find. I spoke with him again on Friday, and he admits they did the 120 volt electrical installation to the main unit, which is still okay, but that our maintenance guy, whoever it was in 2012, did the low voltage installation from the main unit to the dock. We're meeting on excuse me. We're meeting on Wednesday to go over all of it, but it appears we may have to fund the cost of the repair if we can't negotiate something with them. I've contacted Endurus to see if this might be covered, but it could very well fall within our deductible when it's all said and done. Parking at the North Shore, we had previously discussed the potential of widening the space across from the North Shore boat launch for trailer parking. Olson and Associates has surveyed it and marked the property corners. There appears to be quite a bit of marketable timber on the back of the property that could potentially be logged and generate enough money to pay for the project. I'll contact some loggers and get an idea of how much money we're talking about and report back. WPPA meeting schedules. The annual meeting is December 5th through the 7th at the Hyatt Regency in Bellevue. We need to know who's planning on going so we can get reservations made. And then we have old business. So.
Okay.
Would you like me to go through that while we're at it?
Any questions, guys? You want to finish signing before we move on?
Yeah, I'm just wondering where, if a couple of those things should be under old business, like
Which thing?
What
the
the
damage to the dock and the property purchase.
Yeah, it's kind of ongoing
Yeah.
business, is what it is.
So I definitely would like to discuss the property purchase every month and the progress of it.
Okay.
Oh, well, let's go ahead and move on. Transient mortgage expansion project.
Okay, Art Anderson has delivered the preliminary design documents. We need to get a bid on the power pedestals where they could write the specs for this to go out to bid. We got that bid finally on Friday, and I forwarded it to Art Anderson and Associates. They will have the specs in a big bid package, hopefully done by the end of this week. I have an application for the PUD I had planned on having completed, but I still need some questions answered before I can finish it. And quite frankly, working on the budget slowed all that down, but I'm on it this coming week. As I reported previously, the State Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation has decided they want an archaeological survey done in the area where we're going to be digging the trench for the power and water conduits. Bill Ray had suggested we have the survey done on the entire park because additional projects like the Oyster House will require one as well. That way we'll already have it done. This won't cost a lot more in the overall scheme of things, and like the programmatic shorelines permit, that'll cover all our facilities for the next 5 years. This works the same way. There is some minimal additional cost, but it'll save us money and time in the long run. We'll also have to do a one-time SEPA report for the old launch ramp removal, but it too will cover the entire park and all of our facilities. Contracted with a consulting firm for the survey, and they were out here last week and walked the entire park with myself and Don. They'll have a team here to begin the actual work on the 21st. Sweetwater Park, not much to report on this. We did receive an email from Ken Van Buskirk about some squatters on the property. In talking with Dana Rosenbach from the school district on Friday, she told me they had called the sheriff to have them removed. She's also going to follow up with RCO on Friday about the property transfer confirmation letter and will let me know what she finds out. I spoke with Kim Sellers at RCO today, and she didn't know off the top of her head what the status of it was, but told me she will check into it and get back to me.
Great.
Oyster House, I talked to both a potential contractor and Art Anderson Associates. Main focus right now is getting an accurate engineer's estimate together for the lobbyist. Trying to set up a meeting for this week to nail that down and get everyone in the same place at the same time. Time is of the essence because the lobbyists will need to get our legislators up to speed on this project as quickly as possible. While our current legislators are well aware of the project, with the election tomorrow, that could change. There will be a ramping up process if any of our new representatives are replaced. If that happens, the lobbyists will need as much time as possible to work with and educate the new legislators, because they will be drinking from a fire hose initially, not only about our project, but about all the other things they need to know as well. For the most part, new legislators don't know what they don't know, so that learning curve is pretty time critical. Perhaps Commissioner Scott has some additional information to share.
Nope, not at this point.
Criminalization of marina rules. Commissioner Jackson is working with Sheriff Salisbury about this, and hopefully we'll soon be able to put this to rest once and for all. And Kitsap All Ports Association, I missed the meeting on October 22nd because I was with Commissioner Scott at the North Mason Community Voice doing a presentation on our water system along with several other water purveyors. However, in the meeting minutes, Support of Kingston reported they have authority to ticket vehicles that don't comply with their rules. Commissioner Edge Schofield from the Port of Silverdale questioned how Kingston determined they have the authority to issue tickets as they're dealing with a similar problem there. Commissioner Kingston, Commissioner Mary McClure offered to provide more information at the next All Ports meeting in January. Or I'm going to give Mary a call and see what I can learn before then in hopes it'll help us out of our situation.
That's great.
So,
Question?
Yes, wasn't that originally what was brought forward to the commissioners? Was that, how do you do a civil infraction like a parking ticket?
yeah.
Say Diamond Parking does.
I think Title IX is.
Yeah.
what
And
it
then
is.
didn't they have an issue with that and they actually sent us down this?
Yes.
They'd rather do the criminalization of marina rules, and I know that Frank Schmelling's got a presentation on it as well, but would it actually be easier for us to go down writing our own tickets? We have a security person, we have...
Well, that was what we proposed.
Yeah.
And they put it back on the sheriff and said that they didn't think the sheriff would agree to that. You know, they didn't say they wouldn't, they just said they didn't think the sheriff would.
Yeah, or do he or his deputies have the time to
Exactly.
ticket
And
people?
we
who
had
left their-
offered to let them collect the money for any tickets, and, you know, we spent about $5,000 dinking with these marina rules, making changes that the commissioners asked for. And when it was all said and done, the commissioner said, no, we're not going to do this. So, you know, here we are. And we're trying to work it out with the sheriff. When the commissioner said that, I called Frank Schmelik at your urging and just said, you know, what do we do here? And Frank proposed the Title IX idea. I ran that by them, and like I said, they put it back on the sheriff.
Any comments, Ted?
Well, if we were to do it civilly, we'd have to have a mechanism to collect.
Mhm.
So basically, what we'd have to do is get a collection agency to collect those fines. So that's more money on the port. Depending on how severe the infractions or tickets are, I think we can do it. It'd definitely have more teeth if it came from the sheriff's department. But I know the staffing at the sheriff's department, what we're hearing is that we can't be out here at every whim when we have vehicles parked here or boats not paying mortgage. I'm curious to see how Kitsap's doing it, the Kingston's doing it. Because I don't think the sheriff would give Travis a limited commission to do it. So, and that's what we would need. So unless they had a code enforcement officer that could pick up the slack and do that, I'm more curious to see how Kingston's doing with their mechanism.
So am I.
So,
I'm sure there's a collection, I mean, we have an avenue to bill, so I'm sure there's a collection company out there that would handle that for us.
Yeah, I'm
Of
sure
course, at a
there's
cost.
somebody that's doing it for everybody else.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if we originally had suggested that the county keep the money, the sheriff keep the money, well, any money that we get would be more than that. You know, regardless if the collection company took a portion of it.
Yeah, most collection companies are 40 or 50%.
we would have the authority to do a civil, I mean, just the Port District alone, say, this is the port's property, public property, you have to obey by the rules. If you're mooring a boat here, or if you're launching a boat and parking, you have to pay. So it's no longer free, but that would put an extra burden on Travis, of course. As soon as we do that, neighbors around the both boat launches would be screaming, hey, there's a car here, you ticketed me yesterday, why aren't these folks being ticketed? I mean, that's just going to happen. So,
Neighbors do.
but if we don't get, the sheriff was fairly understanding on Saturday, and I asked him after the election's done if we could give him a week's break, and then we go in and talk to him. He was fairly understanding, but we need to do something. So, and I've checked with other ports to see how they're doing it. If counties are doing it, cities are doing it, they're not. So everybody has their own entity. Fish and Wildlife Properties, Fish and Wildlife, DNR is DNR. Tacoma Metro Parks is Metro Parks. So
I know Paulsbo they have a paid parking lot, and I don't know how they enforce that.
I don't know either.
Yeah, Port Orchard does as well. So.
How do they, Port City of,
Well,
or the Port of
I
Bremerton?
know in Port Orchard they have, you know, I don't want to say meter maid, that's the wrong term, but a parking enforcement officer. And when she writes tickets and they go to court or they pay them, but nobody's policing it after 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So,
And I think-
and that's the same problem we'd run into.
Is she an employee?
Yeah, she's an employee of the city.
Okay.
Employee of the police department.
And that's would fall under the same code enforcement
Yeah.
parking violations. So
Limited commission.
correct.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Nice to
Well,
Get
we'll
something
kind of give it
going.
a little time,
Yeah.
talk to the sheriff, and
Yeah,
then...
not too much more time. This has
Yeah.
been going on since I first started, and it's too long.
Yeah.
So as
Going
amount
on
of
a year.
effort, amount of effort everybody put in, it's got to stop. So
And we've got a year and a half or more into it before Ted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. You want to continue on with Jennifer Maria? Beria, I knew that. Sorry. From the Economic Development.
I'm assuming at the podium.
Yes,
Sure.
please, thank you.
Well, I met with Larry probably, I want to say it was about 2 months ago. And it was about 3 months after I took over as the director, and we were talking about our partnership and how we can get information to you better, or have you get information to us and be able to utilize both of our networks and our ability and the work that we cover, and really kind of streamline that. One of the suggestions that I'm hearing across the board from most of our partners is that they would like more one-on-one kind of updates. So what Larry and I discussed was coming in quarterly and talking with you about what the EDC has been doing over that quarter. I've got a year-to-date update for you, since this is our first one starting and moving forward. So I've kind of compiled what we've done year-to-date and what I expect to see throughout the rest of the year. So when I've done this with the other partners, it's been pretty informal. So if you have questions at the time, feel free to ask me. If I don't have the answer, I'm happy to get back with you, and I'll let you know either way. So, for on the recruitment side, we've had 23 proposals that have come to us from the state. These are the bigger developments. These are your manufacturers that are looking for large acreage or have at least 100 employee workforce that's going to be attached to it. We've had 23 of those come through. We've been able to respond to 15 of those, and all 15 of those include North End properties as well. There are some that we know kind of going into the proposal that we're not going to get it. If they request a building, but they say on the side, you know, we'll build to suit. Most of the time, the business really is looking for a building. So we put in property, and we don't often hear feedback from that. But out of those 15 that we responded to, I'd say probably 8 of those are pretty legitimate, and 2 of those are still moving forward. So we are on the shorter, they're not to the short list yet, but we're on the shorter list moving forward. Recruitment also encompasses smaller businesses. We have about 8 of those open cases going on right now. Half of those are in aerospace manufacturing, the smaller ones that support Boeing and kind of like, I can't tell you names of the companies, but kind of like TrueFab out of the Port of Shelton that builds the boxes to move aerospace parts. That's all encompassed under aerospace. We have slowly launched our business retention and expansion program. It is our outreach to our current and existing businesses. I don't know if you know, but we have about 4,500 businesses here in Mason County. Some of those are based from their home. Those are harder to reach out to. Some of those are based outside of the UGA, and with growth management, you know, they're trying to move us back into it. So there's some key businesses out there that we need to maintain contact with so that we know when they come up against those development regulations, that's where we can be most effective and help for them. Our entrepreneurship programs are moving forward. We partnered with the County Enterprise for Equity and North Mason Chamber on the business builder training opportunities that we've had. We've had 140 local citizens move through them, and that's a huge number for a program looking at people that are interested, not just interested, already have an idea and want to figure out how to make that work. They've had 40 graduates, and of those 18 are currently moving forward with financing options to be able to site their business and start their production. So yay, that's very exciting. We are working on the grant to fund that again for the next 2 years. It is completely grant funded through the Community Development Block Grant. That means that that training is available. We just move that savings forward. Those grants are to provide training for our community members. It is completely free to them. They get additional tech assistance with the EDC moving forward. So even though we wouldn't charge them that if they came in and needed help, it is still paid moving forward. So that's a really great program that I'd like to see moving forward. We don't have a lot of dedicated in Mason County counseling for business. We're covered by our surrounding counties. I'd like to see that change, and as our need grows, as those businesses grow, the counselors and the trainings that come with that will kind of follow through. Workforce is another one that we're working on. We have Pam Voles. I know that you guys probably know her. She is housed in our office. She is funded through the Business to Business program, and she is helping us outreach, and we're helping her outreach to the different businesses that we all kind of meet with businesses, but they all tend to be fairly different businesses. So that partnership helps us get in to see businesses that we don't necessarily have a touchstone with. Our marketing is moving forward. Our business spotlights started last year. Really good response to that. Had our Choose Mason event here at the Port of Allyn, and it was our first one, and Karin likes to think of it as a flop, but I don't. We didn't have a lot of community members visit. It was right during the fires. People didn't want to be outside, but the businesses that were there loved being able to talk to the other businesses. So I think it is a flop in that we didn't get the attendance from the community, but moving forward, it will be a business-to-business activity. They loved that. They wanted to see it happen again. They wanted that opportunity to check different supply chains that they could maybe reach out to, getting to know different businesses that are here in the area. Being able to just talk about what we have here is a big win for them. So that's kind of what the Choose Mason event is going to shift into. We are moving forward on a hotel market analysis. We've talked with a few developers. It will cover the entire county, so North Hoodsport, it will cover Belfair, it will cover down Matlock area. It'll blanket the whole county. But what we're looking at when we talk with the developers is we've got a lot of anecdotal stories. This is why we need it. We can get numbers from certain businesses, but that's not the information that they're looking for. They need the data analytics that attach to it. And in order for us to do that, we have to move forward with funding that. So we have funding partners. It's about $16,000. We've got a list of people that have already said that they want to fund that. So you'll start to see that kind of roll out over the next, hopefully the next month, we'll be able to engage the consultant to do that work. And after that, we'll be bringing on developers to come and look at sites that have been identified as potential areas for those. Our big list, our big project item for 2019 is our industrial lands. We have identified industrial lands, but they're not ready to be marketed. We have lands that are set to be, here is our industrial hub, that have no utilities to it, that are far away from a highway, and those are the two that I mentioned because those are the two major things that we hear from people, manufacturers specifically, that are looking to site in places. They need to have sewer, they need to have water, and they need to be able to access the property fairly easily. So what we've decided to do is really take a data dump of those industrial lands and figure out which ones are ready to be marketed and which ones need to be shifted. An example of that is the Johns Prairie area down in Shelton. They don't have sewer. They are not having any plans to attach to sewer. The sewer that could be there doesn't have the capacity. It would drain into the Oakland Bay. So what we have to decide now is, where do we site those businesses? If we are only going to focus on businesses that can hook up to septic systems, that really limits the size of business that we can market to. So that's going to be a fairly large project. We're working with the county on that and GIS. We'll be working with our partners, the ports, our major landowners. We've already started meetings with them to see if they're even interested in selling those lands. If they're not available for sale or lease, then it's a designation that's useless to us. You've got 400 acres of industrial land, but you don't want to develop it. That doesn't help us move forward. And just kind of lastly, internally, you probably saw our ballot that went out for our board. We have 9 positions that were open for election, 5 returning, and so we will have 4 new board members this next year. That's the most we've had in a while, so it'll be fun to see the new board members and the fresh opinions and work that they'll help us generate. The last 2 things, and this is just to inform you, Larry's been excellent at coming to our leadership breakfasts. We are going to start splitting our time. Those have mostly been housed in Shelton, but we're going to split those between Belfair and Shelton. We have a very good kind of group of people that the Belfair contingent comes down religiously. We need to get the Shelton people up here as well. So really good turnout from that, really good information from that, a lot of connections that are helping streamline infrastructure projects specifically, so that we spend less money and do more work for the money that we get to spend. And the last little bit is our regional expo, our innovation expo is in December on the 6th. We would love to have you there. It is a mostly all-day event, 8:30 to 3. It's at Little Creek. There's usually about 450 people that attend, and our theme this year is futurists. So the future of workforce, the future of education, the future of different industries, they'll be highlighted. So we'd love to have you guys attend, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
What are you using to reach out to keep the businesses involved? What kind of things are you doing?
The businesses that are you talking more
About
events?
retention.
Okay. It really is the one-on-one effort. They don't tend to come to many of our events. They are busy doing work, so it really is reaching out to them and building that relationship. So it's a one-on-one reach out to build that relationship so that when there is a problem, they'll feel comfortable enough to talk with us about it.
Oh, great. Okay.
Could you explain a little bit? I know there's contracts for the port, the county, and the city, and then we're members, but how the attention gets kind of split up amongst all the participants in the EDC?
The contracts are pretty straightforward. They have deliverables that they want implemented. A lot of those have to kind of revolve around what we do with the state. So some of the deliverables are similar but reach a different focus. Those get quarterly reports. They get an invoice and a written report out. If they want me to come and speak, I'm happy to do that. The investors, it really has been on a case-by-case basis. There has been no kind of set, this is what we do for investors. Our ports are one of our major partners, not necessarily funding-wise, but that's where a lot of our development happens, and they tend to be a much better partner because they understand economic development moving forward. So it really has been with them, how do you want us to involve you? Up to this point, I would say it has been the board members' responsibility to bring information back to their group. But sometimes they don't even know all of what we do at a staff level. So far, right now, it's the outreach to anybody that's not a contract specifically.
Great.
Welcome aboard too, by the
Yeah.
way.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations. You've been doing this a long time.
Oh,
so-
and I'm excited to keep doing it some more.
Yeah, that's great.
One more question. The Zoom Prospector, so that's a database of all the empty commercial spaces in the entire county?
Yes.
And how do you get that information for North Mason?
That's part of what the industrial lands analysis is going to handle. Right now, all it does is it dumps Commercial Brokers Association listings. So if you've listed it with the CBA website, it downloads that into it. If it's not listed that way, we can manually enter it. There's a couple of different options. We can even set the port up as its own user. You guys could list as many properties as you want to that way. Or we can keep it all central in our office and update those as they're going along. It is not, as we're finding out, CBA is not a very consistent producer. We have some realtors who don't list anything on the Commercial Brokers Association's website. So
That's true.
yeah.
LoopNet's a good one. They use that a lot.
Okay.
So if somebody was looking for space in Belfair, could I send them to you? An established business that's looking to move?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You definitely could. Right now, what we have is we have an internal database. We're verifying the information before we shoot it out live, just because it's been word of mouth to this point. So there needs to be a better process in that information, and I think it might just end up being a very simple form to say, yes, let's go ahead and list it. Here's the pertinent information.
Great.
The landowner, and part of that is our major landowners, they kind of handle their own land. They don't list it. Even if they're willing to lease or sell it, they still don't list it. They're waiting for somebody to kind of contact them on that. So this is a way that you don't have to have an agreement to list it like you do with a realtor. It still says, look at this opportunity that we have that that the landowner is open to a discussion around it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
guys, I
Jennifer.
appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you for coming. Appreciate it greatly. Okay, next on the item is the discussion, we aren't gonna do that with Yarrick Community Utilities yet because we don't have the document.
We don't have the document, but Jeff is here if you want to ask him
Okay.
any questions about it.
Hi, Jeff, welcome. Would you like to address this possible interlocal agreement right now, or we don't have the document
I was
looked
kind
at?
of waiting to see what, the port attorney, I outlined kind of like flyer, or not flyer, kind of bullet points of things that would be part of an agreement, and some components of it, and basically, whether that would fly with the port or not, and that's what, Larry's went to the attorneys to see if that would even fly. This is like, a first approach to the problem.
Yeah,
And getting it, the public process and the whole 9 yards, so. The bottom line, I guess, stand at the mic that way. Thank you, Jeff Carey. We're at our 13th connection currently, and we're actually a group. We've been approved as a Group A, but we are limited still because the water rights hasn't gone through, even though ours is senior to the ports. That's a whole other story, another another issue. But the college is working on that issue. But there's going to be it's going to take time, and so Larry and I have kind of batted it back and forth. There's obviously the port's been looking at acquiring water systems like washing water or ourselves or what have you. There's some complications to ours because we have a road maintenance and stormwater maintenance tied into the water system agreement. So we're maintaining private roads, and so it's not just a simple, nice, one water system to another. And there's some other complications. But in all the things we're talking about, based upon at least our discussions, Larry and mine, is even having more connections really isn't going to affect the value that much significantly one way or the other, because it's based upon I guess precedents of like PUD 1, is that the best way to sum it up? With what they're paying and what have you. The things that will affect it would be more like the land that would have to be acquired, or other things that are not are either normally part of a water group, or in our case that might be related to this road maintenance or things like that. So there's a number of complications, but at least this puts in a way for at least the port to get some revenues. It's in my mind it's a non-refundable. It's basically we would fund for a proportion, whatever it is, whatever the port thinks is justifiable, and we pay a fee to acquire. When I say acquire, it's probably the wrong word. To in effect lease and those water rights from the port, and then we would pay the port a fee, monthly fees for the usage of it. So as an example, currently our water rates between the water systems are a little different. Our connection rates are about the same, but we have a higher monthly base, and the port has a little bit lower currently, but your water consumption fees are higher than ours. Now, as we get out in more usage, they equalize, but in our system, we've kind of oriented it towards as much as people can, manage their water and use it economically. We try to reward them for that. So there's a little difference of what happens there. So, for example, currently when we do 14 connections, although we're only 9 are active right this second, there are 2 houses going on, and 2 others coming on some boiler. I don't know when they're going to build, but they bought the connections. Currently we're averaging about 120 gallons a day per user, right? Like this time of year, and even in the summer, like 175, 180. So in theory, although the Department of Health doesn't want to go there yet, they either want us to do something with the port, so they have, another,
Okay.
what they're concerned about us is going over the 5,000
Yeah.
per day. And so I've kind of outlined some points that might, it's kind of like, it's like paying a, for lack of a better word, it may be like a policy where, okay, you have the capacity to deliver water, or, allow us to use that, but if we never use it, we still pay a fee towards it. It's just that we pay in consumption when we routinely start using 5,000 or more gallons a day. So it's got a lot of little nitty-gritty details, but the bottom line is, or one bottom line is to help the port with revenues. And I don't, personally, I want to see the port get what it's paid for the water rights and get something in return on a monthly. One other nice feature about this is we don't have to get wrapped up in the issue of a cross connection. In other words, physical hardware infrastructure to tie us and to meter us and what have you. I see giving the port a easement or whatever, the ability to come onto our well site, and if they want to audit us or what have you, check our meters, our source meters and what have you. The idea is actually what the Department of Health wants, is they want water systems cooperating. Bottom line, we have a need, the port has a need, two different areas, but they do fill both each other's needs. So,
How did that road maintenance get tied with the water system?
purposely.
Okay.
Because your pipes are there?
Pardon me?
Because your pipes are there?
No, not so much that. The issue was the banks. There was a number of houses that were being built, and
Gotcha.
the first problem with the banks is, okay, how
Yeah.
no public road, and there was no way I was going to run a road maintenance, because I've seen it all over the county. Separate road maintenance does not go anywhere. It eventually runs into trouble where a number of parties don't pay, and then you have to file. Even like Lakewood, which is up Cedar Street.
Mm-hmm.
They continually have houses from time to time that get behind and arrears, and it's always a problem. Well, we talked over the attorney and what have you, and said, why don't we we're going to do that, then let's tie it with the water, because people will not go long without paying their water bill.
Okay, gotcha.
And so that gave us an angle
Yeah,
to
that makes sense. That's
keep it.
unusual, but that's pretty good, really.
We had to come up with a way to make, because otherwise just running it separate was not.
Mhm.
And I've mentioned to Larry that, if the port does acquire it, we have to work out something there, because I do not want to run, through the nonprofit a road maintenance. It's just without any other way of, you hate to put checks and balances that way, but it sure works out. You don't have a problem. We've not had a problem when it comes to road maintenance fees, when it's tied to the water.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Okay.
So would your request be temporary? Do you expect to get that water right?
At some point,
Okay.
but I do expect, because the ongoing monthly is not refundable, the paying to lease, or however the definition is of the water rights, and I'm requesting, I picked a number, and it's like 13 acre feet. And to me, there's all the costs that the port had. You can divide it over the 300 acre feet that the port has, and just work it in. And I see that as a one-time sunk cost to do it. I'm not looking to get that back. This gives us capacity to keep growing the system. And there are areas where the port's not, and if there are, we need to, and if the port eventually acquires us, like I said, the cost of whether we have 13 or 23 is not going to be that significant. The issue is all the other things. So,
Is Washington Water an option for you, or are we the only option?
from the state's point of view, Washington Water is an option.
Okay.
Did I hear they just got water rights?
They've had water. From my view, this is a commentary.
Okay.
They got water rights without having to do hardly anything. The port did way more. I've done way more than they have done. There are some tests they've run, which neither one of us done, but they came on the heels, I believe, of Lakeland Village in 2008.
Okay.
And again, remember, water rights are not and I'm not an expert, okay? But I'm getting educated fast, kind of like Larry is with the water system. The water rights, it's actually, you get a permit to withdraw. You don't have, and actually the port doesn't have a 300 acre foot right yet. They have a permit to withdraw, and then they at some point have to perfect it and certify it, what have you,
Yes.
those kind of things. And then you have the water right. So, but hopefully I answered the question you were asking.
I asked Doug Peel about that because I heard something about it, and he was gonna check into it, let me know.
Yeah, I mentioned it.
And I told Jeff I would let him know what I knew.
It looked like to me, based upon what Marie Peters from Department of Ecology has written both our water system and the ports. And I'm looking at the ports only because I'm trying to figure out, do we do an agreement, or, you know, what are all the impacts and what are the, you know, liabilities, what, you know, from my part, not even what you say or just what I see. And there appears to be an issue that needs to be looked at with regards to the permit that was given, provided to the port back in 2010. It's coming up on its 10-year. That something needs to be looked at there. And again, that can affect pricing on acquiring water systems or what have you, because we might have something the port needs more than they did, you know, thought they did. And all I want is just a level playing field balance. The issue is not, the water system has never been the moneymaker. It's been the vehicle to allow us to develop the plat of Allyn. That's, I mean, and if you look, you know, and as you know, we won't rehash the old stuff, but as you know, I would have never touched water if I knew others were coming up in there in the beginning, you know, if we had to do this all over again. But it was what it was. All of us in 2003 and 2004 made our best educated, what I thought where the port was going with commercial, and where I thought we needed to do what we needed to do. And along the way, the roads crossed somewhere in between. So anyway, does that give a little bit more background?
Thank you.
When I look at, I mean, I've told Larry if it's not fair, it's not fair. I mean, you know, don't do it. But it's got to put some revenue in the ports. It's got to compensate for what you have acquired. But it's got to be reasonable enough that, you know, like I said, I'm not trying to make money with it, but at least keep things moving ahead. So.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
We'll get back to you.
See ya.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay, that was great. Now the public hearing for the 1% levy increase. So, pardon?
Close the regular meeting.
Okay, so we don't have a little thing to, so we're going to close the regular meeting,
We used to.
have a public hearing for the approval of the 1% levy increase, which would be Resolution 396.
And I have that right here.
Any comments? Yay or nay? From our public?
Who's gonna pay this levy, all of it?
Yes, it's the tax increase.
When is it gonna be for the vote?
It's the 1%
1%.
allowable by law, the 1% cap.
I know, when are you gonna put it on the ballot for the vote?
You don't put the 1%, that's part of I-747.
Okay.
It's just,
Thank you.
it's just it's the 1% that we're allowed to collect every year.
Every year.
So we take it out to a public hearing. So it's not a lid lift or
So you're
a,
not really doing anything different? You're just
no, it's,
continuing.
yeah, it's just what we do every year,
That I got.
yes.
What are they doing different?
No, nothing differently.
They don't have
You're
to
welcome,
spend
thank you.
They
They
don't
can
have
keep it
to?
reserved, they can have it just held for.
Yes.
Well, they do things, so
Okay.
it's all right. I don't mind, they keep it ready.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Does anybody else need to look at this?
No, I don't think so. We just need to close the hearing and then we make a motion, correct? So officially, we're closing the hearing and opening our meeting.
Yeah, I would move that we adopt Resolution number 396 for our 1% tax collection from the previous year.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, so moved. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if we had to read the resolution.
I hope not, that's a really.
Well, that's a
long-
really odd one, but,
Yeah, it's basically a form.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and sign this, and then we can move forward. There we go. Go ahead. Okay, now our public hearing for the discussion and approval of the 2019 budget for the Port of Allyn, Resolution 397. So we're going to
It's gonna be resolution 390.
7.
Okay, why am I confused here?
This 396 is the
Oh.
levy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't send you
There we
copies
go.
of it, because this is all hard copy
Yeah.
stuff.
So I'm going to close the regular meeting, open the public hearing for the 2019 budget. Any comments? Jeff, did you look at the budget?
Oh, I looked at it.
Any comments?
Just one comment.
Okay,
On the timber trust revenue side, I saw that went up quite a bit. Is that for the timber that's harvested this year, payable next year, or how?
can you educate us on that?
It's the timber that's been harvested this
From
year.
This 2018.
Okay.
And we get revenue from it each month,
Okay.
depending on how much was harvested.
The reason I was looking at it is because at the beginning of the year, lumber futures were like, double what they are today. So that's why I was kind of like, I guess it's kind of double what we got last year, so I was like,
It's a
Well,
moving
That's why we
target.
budgeted real conservatively for it in 2018 and again in 2019.
it just, so it sounds like, probably 2020 is gonna be lower.
Could be.
Okay. I just saw it like double what, so.
Okay. Okay, Lenny, any comments on our budget?
Oh, I like the way that they broke it down, when they proved that they broke it down, more. I like that.
Great. Okay, thank you, public. We will close the public hearing and open the regular meeting. So do I hear a motion to accept Resolution 397? And would you like to read that, Tim?
Yeah. I'll read it first.
Thank you.
Port of Allyn, Allen, Washington, Resolution Number 397, be it resolved by the Commissioners of the Port of Allyn as follows. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Port of Allyn have met and considered the proposed budget for the 2019 calendar year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners, after public hearing and duly considering all relevant evidence and testimony presented, hereby resolves to adopt the budget for the 2019 calendar year as proposed and presented. Adopted the 5th day of November, 2018.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So moved. The next item, I thought we already approved your executive director's employment
We
agreement.
did. It was in the,
The meetings of
it was
the
in
Yeah.
the special
23rd.
meeting minutes.
Yeah, just needs to be signed.
Yep.
Okay,
All signed.
I just
Alright.
wanted to make sure that Scott had said something about doing this all in public, so I just wanted to be sure it was on the agenda.
great.
in
Okay.
public. And like I said, I made sure everybody has a copy, because that was an issue in our initial discussion.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, thank you for approving.
Leanne, do we have space in a file cabinet? I wouldn't want to take this at home.
Oh, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have locked cabinets, we're gonna put one in the safe
Okay.
deposit box too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could put it in a file at home. I just, for public records, try to keep it away from the house.
right, okay.
Yeah, you could probably have mine too. I don't
All
know.
right,
Yeah.
put them in your individual
Perfect.
employee files.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we can do that.
Good thought.
It just that, initially when we were talking about this and trying to go back through the old records, we weren't sure who had signed copies and who didn't.
Well, I appreciate that.
So I
Yeah.
just want to be sure that everybody had one.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you. Okay, the next one is the appointment of the 2019 chair and vice chair.
If I could open that up, I discussed at the last meeting what my situation with work is and how sometimes it's difficult for me to plan to get out of the office at 3:30 and get over here. I don't know if we could do a temporary where until my decision's made, and looks like January, February. But I won't know more until next week when the administrator and the mayor get back in town, so.
Okay,
We could table this
Yeah,
till
definitely.
next month.
Sure.
We still have one more meeting before we, absolutely have to
Yeah,
have.
and if we're gonna
Okay.
rotate it, it's either gonna be Ted or I.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I'm sorry to put
Oh, that's fine.
you two in that
Yeah.
position, but I'm
It
still
needs
trying to
be
juggle what.
Me this year or next year while you work a lot. You can have it in 2021.
And Judy, you're off the hook.
No, yay. I'm looking forward to the rest. No, it's been good. I
Yeah.
appreciate working with everybody. Okay, so we table that. The attendance of the Washington Public Ports Association annual meeting. I think I can attend. But that is December 5th.
5th and 6th
Bellevue.
in Bellevue.
Yep.
And we've got to register everybody online with WPPA
I
also.
won't be able to make that one.
I have that here. I'm ready. I can do that.
Okay.
And where was that at?
Bellevue.
Bellevue.
Hyatt Regency Bellevue.
Where else? They do have,
I won't be able to attend.
Really? Gosh, nobody likes me.
at the,
Yeah, I'm going.
Well, it's like, dang, I missed the one at Leavenworth that I always love to go to.
that was a good one.
I bet.
While we're on the subject, there is going to be a conference next year at Alderbrook. So it's June 12th through 14th. It's the
Which-
the Finance and Administration Seminar, which is one that I like to go to. I know it's odd to be excited about finance and administration, but having it in our back door is good.
I would like to go to that one.
Yeah, we actually get good information
Yeah,
there.
that would be great.
Yeah, that
When
is a
was
really
that?
good one.
June when?
It's June 12th through 14th. I'm guessing that's a Thursday.
Yep, I have that written in. Great.
And then the spring meeting is going to be, it looks like at that's May 15th through 17th at the Historic Davenport. And that is the other one that I'll try to make. And then the small ports will also be in Leavenworth again next year because we voted to continue to have it at the NZM. Although we have to have the entire hotel because,
It's so popular.
yeah, and we were full.
And really well done.
That downstairs room is hot and it's full, but then we moved upstairs and it's much better upstairs.
Oh,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
great. Have you been there before, Ted?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay, so you got your marching orders for booking us then.
Yeah, I'm gonna write this in my handy dandy new calendar.
Don't forget to attend the November 17th fundraiser for the Oyster House. So, public comment.
I had one question.
Okay,
Association of Washington Businesses having their rural jobs event.
Oh, yes,
believe
I
it's
saw
this
that.
Thursday. I'd kind of like to go to that. If you all,
Absolutely.
yeah, can you, I saw that because, but I was wondering how is that gonna help us?
now
help
that,
you?
well, it's one of those things where I think it's a learning opportunity
Mm-hmm.
as to what's being done elsewhere. And I don't know how much of a presence Mason County is going to have there, but we're as rural as anybody else.
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah, I would suggest that you go.
Definitely.
You know, it's just an
So you-
overnight in Longview, so it's not like it's a, you
Okay, so you have our approval, so
know, okay,
go learn, bring something back.
okay.
Anything else for public comment? Jeff? Thank you.
Jeff Carey. Again, thank you for the video, because now I'm having to go to different meetings, and it's not always easy to make all of them simultaneously. But it's very appreciated. One question, and I saw it in the budget, and I can't remember it in any of the meetings, but maybe I missed one somewhere in the process. Did the report go ahead with, at least at some capacity, with the lobbyists?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Also, I want to thank the port for at least presenting an idea of a project to TIPCAP, i.e. the, for lack of a better word, doesn't have a name yet, but the safety concern of North Shore,
Oh,
basically
yeah.
basically, as I recall, basically from out from the port docks there out there, North Shore, all the way to basically Belfort.
Belfort, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody understands that one. Nobody has any disagreement that there is not a problem. And we haven't figured out yet how to, because so much of it is state, but we're gonna, it's in the pile still. So we haven't we haven't ejected it or rejected it or anything like that.
You know, I could probably bring that up, the Peninsula Regional Transportation Organization, again, because it's a state
Yeah.
highway, and they're looking for partnerships. I
Right.
think that's been mentioned before, but
Well,
maybe I need to champion that more.
been some discussion, like with the intersection there that comes off Sand Hill and all the problems of that one. And obviously, so as you take the intersection, you're on county. So the TIPCAP advisory panel is pushing on that area. It hasn't gained any traction yet. I mean, nobody's saying it's not needed, but it hasn't got any traction yet with Public Works. It's kind of one of those.
What would they do to
Well,
fix it?
but I'm saying we don't know. The
Okay.
problem is, and maybe there's a point where they can participate. In other words, obviously the easement's only a certain amount of width, and you can't totally get the, especially from a perpendicular standpoint when you're coming down the hill. You know, if it's 100 feet wide, you deal with whatever you got to deal with coming up to the intersection. So there's some point, but to what extent we do not know. But it's the TIPCAP's looking at a number of little intersection issues, a little things of that kind of safety, line of sight type things, and obviously there's a lot of line of sight issues with North Shore.
That's for sure.
Between width, length, line of sight, just all the above.
Yeah.
I mean, that road has almost everything. The only thing it doesn't have is cliffs at that point. If you get out further, okay, you got cliffs. But I won't digress on that. That reminded me of something I found on one of the GIS maps with the North Shore when you get out by Tahuya.
Yeah?
It's all part of a recent slide area. I don't know what the word recent, whether we're talking 100 years. As a side note, it's out of the Port District. It's not really part of this. It's the North Shore Road, but we'll stop.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that. You can ask me later. Anyway, so, but we, it has not gone away. So that safety project is still going to be discussed and see how we can maybe bring it in to something. The commission, the county commissioner, is actually going to be looking and approving a resolution tomorrow with the 1 and 6 year transportation improvement projects. So the 4 that I can remember off the top of my head, well, there's more, but that are substantial. One is that affect, I believe all these have some effect in the 1 year, but they for sure all have by year 2. So that would be the 6 year. And that is the bypass connecting route, whether that's going to be the midpoint like Romance Hill Road or whatever, there's going to be that. So the county's got to design that, and that's good. We're at the interface with it. So it's a project that's going to happen. It's in the Port District and what have you. Trails Road as it exists, it's a continually very expensive road to maintain, that first half mile,
Yeah.
or last half mile, depending where you start counting your odometer. That's going to be, it's a road that should have never been there. But the county is, to that extent, the county's actually created a project called the Trails Road Alternative. And so they're beginning to look at the process and try to put money towards the process of somehow getting back. And I remember there's Trails Road, there's Razor Road, there's all these, but you know the family roads at least.
Yeah.
Basically getting some kind of connection from Highway 3 or 106, but probably Highway 3, back, for lack of, back to Trails End, Mason Lake Road portion, all the way. Through using some of Razor Road and things of that nature. There has been some progress in the sense that a couple property owners have written letters of willing to donate right away. There's complications with it. It's never a simple gift. Always has strings, but the bottom line is that there's people property owners willing to work with it, so it's not like a total block.
That's great.
So, and it also fits a safety thing because we just know that sooner or later, whether you're talking, those 1 in 100-year storms, the 1 in 500 that we seem to get every decade.
Really?
That there's a lot of places where along the South Shore it lets go. Same with North Shore, but in this case we're talking like Trails End. You can see. When you get the satellite views and the whole nine, you can just see that it's been, over the years, it's fleshed out through Trails in there. And so sooner or later, you notice there's hardly any fir trees growing up and it's all maple and alders and things like this. That just tells you that sooner or later it's going to move again. So, and then the last project, or at least the one that I can remember right off the top of my head, is looking at the Allyn right-of-ways, plat of Allyn right-of-ways, in particular wheelwright. It's on the list. It's been on the list since 1997. It's one of those things that's been a problem since 1905. Maybe in one of these generations we'll get it fixed. But anyway, we'll see. In other words, if they approve it, then the county will start to move to look at right-of-ways.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And that will address a whole wheelwright opportunity that we got in there. So we have one property owner that's willing to donate his portion of the easement to get it going. And the wheelwrights in the portions we're talking about is at least 4,500 feet, so they're talking almost 10%.
Yeah.
So it's a start, and others may do. It just depends how the county wants to lay this out and work with it. Some said, well, we'll donate a portion, not the whole 60 feet, because the plat's in 60-foot grid right away. So we'll see. But it's on the list, and it's going in front of them tomorrow, so we'll see. Unless they strike it, So anyway, that's what's happening with TIPCAP. Okay, I got the budget. I got the last, my favorite one is the Oyster House.
Yeah.
And I know you've heard my testimony in the past, so I'm not going to rehash it. My only concern is that in the beginning, it's kind of one of these biblical type statements. In the beginning, that project was going to be a lot less liability or cost to the port. And I understand things change, okay? And I'm not hung up on that. The only issue I'm really hung up is where you're planning to put it. But that's we've already gone through that. I have a new place for you, but you guys, Larry knows about that. We won't.
Wheelwright?
No. The property you're trying to acquire. Squat.
But then it wouldn't have a historical value. That's what
quoted
to us by the.
I hear you.
Okay.
But I'm not happy.
Because it's not
As a
back
taxpayer,
over.
I'm not happy with it, okay? Leave it at that. my only concern is, it reminds me of something that the county gets wrapped up in, is these, with comp plans, or sewer projects. And I don't want to bring it to the level of sewer, because that's a 4-letter word in both communities. But you get these projects, and we start, trying to get it on budget, trying to make it economical, all the things we try to do. And we don't seem to have the check and balance. And I'm not blaming the port or blaming the county. I mean, we all have this problem. But there has, the check and balance, that means that you can make a decision, in my mind. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. In other words, when the facts stack a different way, sometimes the most intelligent thing is, okay, stop, park it, or whatever, a project. And I understand. I understand history. I understand all the different things that go into trying to save something, and that kind of nature. So I say it, lightheartedly. I'm not really down on it. I'm just concerned that, the port has a lot of things to do. And yeah, you might get some of the monies from lobbyists, find sources, and that's all well and good. I just concerned the port's going to get an albatross around its neck for a while. I hope not, but I'm not seeing. I haven't seen, and I don't have time to participate with the Oyster House Committee and what have you like that. But it'd be nice once in a while, from the port standpoint, if we could just say, okay, here's where we think we are, or where we're going, or the 2-year update, or the whatever, 1-year update, or something. Just, I don't mean every meeting, I just mean once in a great blue moon, just say, okay, everybody's been wondering, because it's been there for X number of years now, where does it stand? And I don't, I don't know. I mean, I hear progress reports, but I don't know where that is in relation to the initial objectives of the project.
Well, I think we are at a crucial point, and again, for me, it's always been wrapped around the funding.
Sure.
Because North Bay doesn't have the ability to get the kind of money that's necessary to do it, or more important, the volunteers to be able to do it. So I think with the lobbyists on board that we can start getting some money, then I think the port can take the lead and start moving forward with it and doing it. I mean, of course, it's an expensive project now, but I mean, for me, Jeff, and I have to be honest that, Fish and Wildlife spent a lot of money to move it here, and to me, it's like, well, I could have just, as with the transitions that we were doing, could have just let it fall down, but I felt like it's really important that at least we see this through.
Well,
and to
I,
move forward with it.
I accept that, and and I understand that's a viewpoint. In the free enterprise system, which is a little bit different, obviously, than the public, and I understand that. But it's not uncommon you start a project, and then you get into a ways, and you realize, oh crud, I need, it's not either going to pencil out, it's not going to have the rate of return, or whatever, any number of things, technical, all kinds of things, that you say, okay, stop. And we just have to stop.
Well, we've looked at tearing it apart and rebuilding stuff.
No, and I'm not saying.
That was a good break, right?
And I'm not saying to do that. What I'm really saying is, let us know where we are, because I don't know where we are really. And I was because
we'll
because
have
it sounds.
A better feel for that after we meet with the engineer.
Yeah.
If I could add something, Jeff, I've talked since the year I've been on here,
Right.
but was involved with the movement from Fish and
Sure.
Wildlife property, and had somebody that used to go out there and kick people out of there late at night. And I think it is part of the port projects, because it's been sitting there. No matter how many times I tell people it was a historical society project, the port, they don't listen. It supports. I look at albatross as one of the best scores you get in golf. I don't look at it as a negative. So, and I saw there were some comments when I couldn't make the last meeting about getting a lobbyist.
Right.
I'm big on spending a little money to get a lot more.
That's fine.
And I want to see. I was up at the golf course the other day, and first thing people said, it wasn't high-ted. It was what are you doing with that oyster house?
Sure.
So I think as soon, like Larry said, as soon as we get the engineer report, we start getting an idea where the lobbyist wants to go. I think it's going to be critical for us to not only quarterly updates, bi-monthly updates
Sure.
of what's going on with that. So,
Okay. Well, you got my,
yeah.
I'm trying not to get into motor, critiquing everything. It's like I've been through the process. I participated. You've heard my 2 bits. They voted. They went their way. The board went its way, and that's it. So I'm not a believer that I got to go and rehash that every time. But as time moves on, different things come up, and it's like that's my issue. In other words, I'm just concerned with the return on investment for the port. It's time, it's resources, it's what have you. And I do realize the unknown variable with the lobbyists. I don't know, and I'm not saying the unknown in the sense of the lobbyist expense. I'm saying what they might be able to find.
Right.
I understand. So
I hope it's something where that people could start actually seeing some movement.
Yeah.
And we can report good news out of it.
right,
So.
and I personally don't have a problem with projects. I've seen all kinds of things where you get 3 years where there's nothing that happens and 5 years where something happens. And I'm not hung up on, personally, I mean, other people I know, because the golf course, you hear it. But if, saying, okay, fine, we need 200K, but it's going to take this, and fine, we're going to go through a process, so it's going to stay in this, state, whatever state it is, for the next 2.5 years, okay, fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. I may disagree, but I don't have a problem with the concept. So that's all I'm getting at.
I do expect to see some actual work getting done in spring because of the weather
Oh, sure.
now, but we've
Yeah.
got a lot of donation. I think I probably mentioned to you, but one of our local lumber stores donated,
Sure, I heard
A
that
lot,
actually
yeah.
in the video.
there you go.
So,
Okay.
So anyway, you got my drift, and I don't want to beat it. And
Okay,
I want just a little feedback.
great.
I have a couple quick go to the order
Thanks,
things.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
You heard in Travis's report, they kicked in the door of the
Mhm.
thing at the kayak
There's
park.
absolutely nothing in there, right?
Nothing.
Nothing.
There's a mirror and a toilet, that's it. We ordered a steel door and it came in last week.
Good.
So Don's gonna be putting that in before long here. Also, are you all familiar with the 3D building in Belfair?
Yep.
Okay, it's owned by DOT and it's for sale. I have contacted all 3 of our legislators about the possibility of some kind of intergovernmental transfer to where we could get that building and use it as one of those co-working spaces. I went over and looked at it and it's almost perfectly laid out for that. So, it'd take a little bit of work, but not a lot. I contacted DOT, they said, no, it's got to have some kind of highway use before they could transfer it to us. So I sent a thing to all of our legislators and just said, I know you guys know more about this than I do. Is there some way to make this work, to where we could acquire it in a transfer?
Great.
But I did that about 2 weeks ago, but I haven't followed up on it because the election's coming up and I figured I'd just wait till after the election and, kind of go from there. But I just wanted you all to be aware of it.
Good.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order?
What did you say about what use that building for what?
A co-working facility?
A co-working?
Yes, that's a fairly new phenomenon, but what it is entrepreneurs that don't really need an office, they'll come in there and they'll either, there's a couple of different business models for it. One of them is membership and one of them is just pay as you go. But it's basically just a little space where they can come in and work. And then there's a,
Something right underneath the porch use?
is it
would
something?
be.
what-
It would be if we got a
Yeah, the
transfer
Port of
to
Chehalis
us.
has one that's been very, very successful. There's a private sector one up on Bainbridge Island that's very successful. And 2 more have opened in Tacoma in the last 90 days. So,
It gives them a base to get started from.
Yeah, it has like a community conference room, a community kitchen. They share copier and other
It gets
office
them out of
equipment.
their homes so they can become established.
Yeah,
All right.
so. And also, the ARC has the office upstairs, and they're going to stay till the end of the year,
Okay.
but that's it.
Great.
So,
Oh, the end of this year, so
yeah,
2 more months.
yeah, pretty much.
I
But
saw they have 3 bins out there now.
yeah, and they're filling every one of them
Yeah.
up. That's why there's 3 of them.
Wow.
The guy came by the other day, asked if he could put the 3rd one out there, because they're emptying them once a week and they're jam-packed.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
great. Anything else for the good of the order?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All right.
Okay, so moved. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.